Hey guys, welcome to Every Damn Friday. Today I've got a really cool guest. He's an awesome artist, originally from Cynthiana, Kentucky, but he's now working mostly out of Lexington. Mr. Wylie Caudill. You probably recognize his work from this year's Kentucky Derby, and we have a really cool conversation about being an artist here in Kentucky. So I hope you enjoy it. Thank you all. Hey everybody, welcome to Every Damn Friday. I've got a special guest tonight. Mr. Wylie Caudill. How you doing, bud?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Life is good.
Good,
Uh,
good, good.
so, in case you don't know who Wiley is, he's an amazing artist, and we'll talk about his story here in just a second. But he was a featured artist this year for the Kentucky Derby. Uh, you probably saw if you drink bourbon at all, you've probably got one of his bottles in your bourbon collection. He's been doing all sorts of murals and different projects, and just got a lot going on. But his career seems like you haven't been at it too long. So, uh, first of all, just kind of tell me how this whole thing started rolling.
Yeah. Yeah, I really haven't been at it too long if you think about it. I mean, I've been drawing and painting my whole life. And when I was in college, I was a broadcasting major of all things. I was really into like film. And I thought getting a broadcasting degree would help that. But um,
They're not making
while
any movies in Kentucky.
they don't make too many. In fact, while I was in college, they got rid of the tax incentive for like big films
Right.
to
Yeah, I remember that. Thanks, Bevan.
yeah. Yeah, right, exactly. And so at that point, I was like, I had been working on some like film sets, which was a really cool experience. But then they kind of just, went away. And while I was in college, I just like, I don't know, I just didn't like love like the college experience. So I spent a lot of time doing chalk art around campus and
I
like,
saw that. You're the
yeah,
chalk guy.
I was the chalk guy. That's what people knew me as before they even knew my name. I was the chalk guy. And that's how I got to kind of meet some people and just like have some fun on campus.
You didn't
And
get like arrested or anything for.
people did call the police on me a couple of times. And every time the police came, I'd be like, it's Crayola, washable chalk. It's not spray
It'll
paint.
be gone in a week.
Just let it rain and it'll be gone. But yeah, I built a small following on social media for doing chalk art. And after I graduated, I started working at Kentucky for Kentucky. I see you're wearing the y'all shirt today.
Listen, so like when that first started, like there couldn't have been anything cooler. And
Yeah, right.
I was playing music at the time, and we were traveling to other states, and like every time I played, I had a Kentucky for Kentucky shirt on. Just
Yeah.
had like 15 of them. So
Yeah, it was such a like a small like just a pun on the Yale shirt and it's y'all and it was like I remember when that shirt came out that year it was the same year Beyonce dropped her self-titled album and the number one selling item in the state of Kentucky was the Beyonce album and then the y'all t-shirt. It,
and
it
I'd
was
say it's
great.
probably still doing great.
I think it is. I
And
think
just
Kentucky
simple and brilliant. And
fine.
then from then on, Cocaine Bear and everything else. There's a
Yeah.
movie you could have worked on. See?
Oh man, what a great movie too. That was such a fun experience at the Kentucky Theater. Anyway, so yeah, I was working at Kentucky for about a year, and they had asked me because they knew that I did the chalk art at school. They were like, "Could you paint some of our logos in various places? We need one on our building. This restaurant called The Stave wants a Kentucky Kicks Ass logo. They're like, if you do chalk, you can probably paint. So could you do it?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's no problem. I'll just paint some murals for you all." So I did those. And once I got my first couple murals up like that, I got just random inquiries from other businesses
Because you got a
about,
resume now. You've got a
I got a little
portfolio.
resume. Yeah, exactly. Building my portfolio. And I started to get other inquiries from other places about putting logos up. And around like COVID, at this point, I was like, I think I can do murals full time. I'll just kind of give this a shot. And I was like, cool with painting people's logos on buildings and whatnot. But around COVID, all these places wanted to start renovating while they were closed. And this was like early COVID when they thought they were just going to be closed for like 2 or 3 weeks. LOL, that didn't happen.
Yeah.
And I just started like painting murals, started designing a lot more stuff, and really got the ball rolling on murals. Um, and that's kind of like how I really became a full-time artist, is just like started with the chalk art, then the logos, and then started designing my own stuff.
Don't you
And I
think?
was
I just think part of the uh for me, the journey with art has just been like people like taking on projects that were a little bit more than I could probably chew
Yeah.
and stretching out and like, oh, I don't
Mhm.
know if I could do something that's 30 foot wide.
It pays off.
And then just you say, you know what? I've got to be that guy that can do whatever people ask me to do.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and uh and if you can always say yes, then everybody goes, well, hey, that guy, he does stuff. And
Yeah.
it seems like you've turned into that guy for Lexington, and
Oh,
now it's kind of spreading out.
I'm sometimes so grateful for my own stupidity because I'll say yes to jobs that are so big and like intimidating and jobs that I actually don't really know how to do. Like the first time I had to operate a big lift and
Yeah.
like get to these like huge heights to paint these murals, I had no idea how to actually do that.
Well, and I had a hard time early on, like places not wanting to rent them to me because I was going to be painting. They're like, you
Yeah.
can't use this because we don't want paint all over it. I'm like, I mean, I'm not painting with a roller. Like I'm painting with a brush or
Yeah.
whatever.
That's
Um,
funny. No one's ever told me that, but I guess I don't actually tell them what I'm doing.
well, okay, yeah. Note to self: lie from now on. And
Yeah.
it, I was watching you through the whole derby process. Like, I was following you on Instagram, and as you were working on the oh, what do they call the horses? The
Oh, the Gallapalooza? Or
Galapalooza.
yeah.
Yeah, just like, oh my God, like I'm never gonna get this horse done. Or
Oh my gosh, those are a task and a half. It's yeah. Yeah, those ones especially because I live in Lexington, so driving up to Louisville every day to paint them, it got to be so tedious. And like, no shade to anybody else, but there's, some of the horses are just, painted like a solid color or have a logo on or
well,
whatever.
some
And I
people
was
don't have
driving
any
up to
vision.
Louisville.
They're just like, hey, about
Yeah.
will you just paint this rainbow colors for me? Thank you, and
Yeah.
without
Yeah.
any kind of cleverness.
Totally, which is like fine. Some look great with their simplicity, and that's awesome. Mine were just like little roses fully covered, and I don't know. So
Now, did that
driving
come
every day.
exclusively from? Was that connected exclusively to like the Derby? And like, is
Yeah,
that where that came from?
yeah. The Bright Side Foundation is a charity connected with Churchill Downs and the Derby, and I think their main goal is like fixing up parks and keeping
Yeah,
Louisville greenery.
Operation Brightside. I've heard that
Yeah.
on the news.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And most of the artists they hired were, local to Louisville. So they had no problem just kind of driving 15, 20 minutes to go paint the horse of the day and drive home. I was driving 90 minutes
Hmm.
every day and
64, the worst traffic ever.
worst traffic ever. I was painting two horses instead of one, and they were both just covered in these. I ended up bringing them both to Lexington just to make it more convenient. I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna drop some dollars, get a U-Haul, and bring them down here because this is too much.
And then now you're doing a lot like with the leaves and like, has this just been something like, do you feel like this has developed like a period for you where that is
Mhm.
the style?
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Once I got these roses that really seemed to be popular, I just got really obsessed with taking these organic shape like the leaves and like rocks and stuff like that and repeating them over and over. And it just I think looks so satisfying on these three-dimensional shapes or on walls or wherever. And I've developed this style that I kind of call organic repetition. And it seems to work out every time I paint it on something. So it's definitely, I'm in this era of repeating these things that I think look cool when
Are
they're
you
repeated.
constantly like nobody sees them yet, but like you're trying like different things, different types of
Yeah,
shapes and like what's going to work and
definitely. I've
what's the
got a whole,
next thing I'm going to drop? Am I
yeah,
repeated mushrooms or whatever?
I've tried mushrooms. Yeah. I've got a whole sketchbook of things that I like, I auditioned to be part of the style. Some look great, some don't, but yeah, there's definitely many, many that I have tried out.
And don't you feel like that you just jumping into this and saying, you know what, this is what I'm going to do full time, like it kind of escalates that, the style. Whereas if you were still
Yeah.
working and you were just doing this on a little bit, like it's the frequency and like the 10,000 hours kind of thing.
Yes, the 10,000 hours, definitely. When I first decided to become a full-time artist, the first 6 months, my skill developed like an insane amount, more than it had in like, my 20 years of having just drawn casually. When you like put yourself in that situation to where, you make yourself draw every day because like this is what's going to pay your bills. Like you don't really kind of realize, but you're also practicing every single day and you get
had a,
better
had a
so quick.
friend had a friend one time that he was trying to convince me that because I taught high school and I didn't teach art. I taught agriculture, and he was like, "Man, you should do more artwork." And I was like, I ain't got time for that, and I can't make any money doing that. And but he would commission me to paint something, and he'd say, "Okay, look, I'm going to sell it,
Mhm.
and I'm going to mark it up to a stupid price, and somebody's going to buy it." And then I'm going to commission you to do another one. And we did this 2 or 3 times. And like after the third one, it cost us $50 with the canvas and the paint, and we'd sell it
Mhm.
for 500 or 700 or whatever. Uh,
Yeah.
he's like, we need to do a show, and that was the point where. So I said, okay, if I'm going to do a show, then I can't just have 10 pieces. Like I need to have. It needs to be a show, a legit
Yeah.
show. So for 30 days, I did a painting every day. And kind of like what you're talking about, like some of them I didn't, weren't worthy of being, displayed. But it was like, but doing it every single day, like you start like, this is how I paint. This is my style. This is my technique. And
Yeah.
and doing it, that intensely, like
Yeah.
it's like shaving seconds off of your 40 time. You're knocking it out.
Yeah. 100. Did you find yourself like when you had like this deadline of like, got to be ready for the show, I've signed up to do a show, that it was just like you had no choice but to paint, and that
That's what I
made,
do because I'm
yeah,
because I'm ADD. I like to force myself into impossible situations.
yeah,
To like I'm gonna go ahead and say I'm gonna release because I play music too. So I'm like I'm gonna release this album on this day. It has to be done, and I'm gonna go ahead and put it out there. And um, otherwise, then I just kind of I need to hyper focus.
yeah, totally. And that's the only thing that makes me hyper focused. Like no one can procrastinate like I can, but if there's a deadline and there's a little bit of pressure to, get this done by this time, I can do it. But
I
yeah,
think that's an artist thing too. I mean, or at least you know, like you. I don't know. It's hard to just be inspired. I quit teaching to play music full time, and
Mhm.
it's funny how the art ended up paying the bills during that time.
Yeah,
Maybe because I wasn't focusing on it, but it's like when you're kind of up against. I don't know. You can't. I'm not the kind of guy who just who's like I'm gonna do my blue series or whatever. Like
yeah,
I'm very much a commercial artist. Like I'm thinking about a client and I'm thinking about who would
yeah.
buy this and I don't know if that's maybe more of a graphic designer than an artist, but I feel like I don't know. What do you think about that?
I totally agree with you. I mean, like, we have bills to pay. Like, I would love to just paint dragons all day. Like, I think that would be fun.
There's
But I mean,
probably a
like,
market for that.
there probably is somewhere. But I think it's better to like I used to not really care that much about painting Kentucky themed things. But Kentucky being my client, like everyone wants something Kentucky related for their murals or whatever. I have learned not only to like love Kentucky more, but then also I can build my style around a theme. Like you can like I'm sure you've been asked
Be
like,
clever. Be clever
yes,
with because we were talking about working for bourbon companies. I've worked for makers, and the wax is just like this awesome thing to work with. But so
yeah,
many times they're like, I don't really know what I want you to do, but I wanted to have this. So you've kind of got these parameters, but you
mhm,
get to be creative within those parameters, and you kind of
yes.
what they want, which is
Mhm.
exciting too.
Yeah, when you're given a box, it's much easier to think outside of it. Whereas people are like, paint whatever you want. That's when I'm like, I have no
Yeah, like
idea.
what is our like what is the current like tagline for advertising?
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
almost like being Don Draper on Mad Men. It's like
mhm,
how can I be like super clever and because I'm not Michelangelo. So how can I do something that's fun and interesting that'll get people's attention and and is clever. So like that's the artistry.
yeah. Well, even Michelangelo, he literally had the Bible. It was stories of the Bible. Paint literally what it says in the
Yeah,
Bible.
that's true. That is true. So,
And
and
that's what I
feta
love too. I'm
cheese.
like,
Go.
we've got the parameters, like this is what we have, and then I get to be creative on how to, showcase that. And you can take these, what seems like a really limited, idea, and you can really produce a million concepts around it. I think that's like my favorite way to create.
So kind of circling back to that, maybe putting a bow on it. Like, so what clients have you worked for? Like, what has kind of been? And like I said, you're like 3 years into this, so you're
Hmm.
knocking it out of the park.
Well,
What
thanks.
what are some of the people that you've worked with that people would recognize?
Well, earlier you said the Kentucky Derby, and that, at the beginning of that, I thought they were going to be real, sticklers, have a lot of rules and boundaries. And they honestly, at the very beginning, were like, paint anything. We just want to see what you come up with.
But
And
but did you feel like? No, I'm sorry, I'm interrupting.
there you go.
But did you feel like kind of guilty? Like I know there's artists who have been trying to do this forever and ever and ever, their whole career. Like this is especially like Louisville area artists were like, all I want to do is be, do the print for the Derby. And you're like, I'm Wiley and I've been painting for a couple years and here you go.
That is such a good question. I kind of thought about that, but I guess like guilty, not really. I didn't feel
I'm not trying to
guilty.
make you feel bad about it.
No, 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 no. I think a lot of people maybe would, and what they told me I was the youngest person they've hired to do the job, which I never considered like the youngest to do something that being a flex or anything. I don't know. I think I was just more honored than anything, or just I felt more validated.
Yeah.
Um,
Because sometimes I
I
get
never.
imposter syndrome. Like, you know what? There are people who are a lot better than me who probably should be doing this job, but here I am. Like I'm a good salesman and
Yeah,
paying me to do it.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I definitely I had imposter syndrome kind of like first starting out. I didn't really know, I didn't have much confidence. But I think like confidence has been like the key thing for my, local success. I just like when you put yourself in these situations and like you have no choice but to do a decent job, you end up doing a good job because, people are going to see it, and you put that pressure on yourself, and it really kind of just happens. And if you think you're doing a bad job, you keep working the art until it fixes itself.
Have
Um,
you gotten a lot more savvy about the business side of it?
no.
So I have a friend, and she's lived in Nashville. She lived in Bowling Green at the time. Her name is Andy Rudloff, and she's worked with the Arts Council, but she does lots of murals and has a very distinct style. And and she said a lot of times she'd be brought in to consult or like make a proposal on something and give them this really cool design. And they go, I don't think we can afford you. And then she'd go back like 6 months later, and somebody had taken the design and they had their nephew like projected on the wall or something. And
Her design?
she said she got burned a lot of time, like a lot of times early on with like that kind of stuff. So she's like, now like I'll do a design, but it's going to cost you $150. Like if you want to
Yeah.
see it, like, you've at least bought the sketch. And then
Yeah.
if you hire me, great. If you don't, then at least it was still my idea. But she taught me a whole lot early on. And her motto has always been like hashtag do stuff. Like just go do it.
Mhm.
Like who cares if you're
Yeah.
prepared for it? Like it's
Yeah.
art.
That is crazy. I've never had a sketch like stolen like that. That is some wild
It'll
behavior.
happen. Well, there'll be people uh who will look at your style and be inspired by it. And uh
Hmm.
there's a graphic designer, Aaron Draplin. Do you know who he is?
I don't think I do.
You should look him up. I really want him to do an interview with me because he's awesome. But he's like big, fat, like font, and
Hmm.
he's done a lot of people's records. You know, but he's got this style, and it's like, he's like, I get ripped off all the time, but it's
Yeah.
kind of a compliment because you're inspiring people to kind of do this thing and think, take what you have and
Hmm.
kind of make it their own. Um, but I can see that happening with what you're doing. I mean, as it evolves, people are going to go, oh yeah, I can take flowers and put them in patterns like this and
Yeah.
kind of do the
Yeah.
Wilder thing.
I have seen, blue roses repeated before where I can't, it's such a simple idea, like roses and then making them blue. Like I don't
But I recognize yours anytime I see them. You know,
Thank you. And I think, yeah, I feel like mine are fairly recognizable. And there have been times since, I've, done all these social media posts about these blue roses. They've gone viral. I've seen like bigger entities use blue roses in some of their stuff, repeating blue roses. And I just think like, was I on the vision board for that big corporate meeting they had for their new
look what I
campaign?
found on TikTok.
Yeah,
Oh
yeah,
yeah,
totally.
they've got people that are doing that for sure.
Yeah, and I'm like, I think I influenced this like major brand. I have no proof, and I don't want to sound conceited, but like I think I did.
Well, and I interrupted you.
No,
So,
good.
so you worked with the Derby, which led to working with Woodford.
Yes, yeah.
How was that?
It was wonderful because they were kind of the same entity. This was the first year that both Churchill Downs and Woodford Reserve shared the same artist.
Okay.
Usually each have their own. But they wanted the 150th Kentucky Derby to be cohesive. So it was cool to like have that honor, but it was also the first year that they were sharing an artist, so there were these new obstacles that they had to face. Like for the longest time, they didn't know if the Derby artwork and the bottle artwork would be the same or they would have their own pieces. I actually didn't know until about 2 weeks before the deadline um, whether or not it'd be one piece or two, and it ended up being two pieces that would be similar in style.
And that
Um,
included the wall, like the tunnel.
No, that was decided maybe 5 or 6 days before the Derby.
So one
Yeah.
time I played music at the Derby, and I had an association with Ram, and they were
Hmm.
the sponsor. It was like the 146th or something, and
Hmm.
and this, like you said, like they're not really thinking about that kind of stuff. They're thinking about the horses and the
Yeah.
all that stuff around it. But they had rented this space, and they were going to park 146 of these special Ram, Derby edition trucks. So
Hmm.
they did one. And then they had this huge lot right as you walk into the Churchill Downs that they needed activated. And they basically
Yeah.
said, if we give you a budget, can you get a stage? Can you get generators? Can you come out here and have a show going? So when the vice president of marketing for Ram pulls up, there's something happening in this space.
Hmm.
So yeah, like
Yeah,
we're the talent is the last people on their mind as they're approaching the Derby, I'm sure.
truly is. Yeah, they're definitely, I think their eyes on the sport. And then they're like, oh, we have to have all these other installations and talent and events happening at the same time. And it's so funny to kind of see so many like huge important parts of the Derby happen last minute. And they
Yeah.
can do that because it's the Kentucky Derby. Like people like I was saying, I was like, I want a mural ready for the Derby. I know I have a million other things to do a few days before the Derby, but I will make sure that mural's done just, because I feel like it's a good opportunity. So
I
they
also saw MTV, Mountain Dew,
Mhm.
YouTube. Like, what kind of stuff did you do for them?
Mountain Dew was one of my earliest like big brand deals, and it was they were running this campaign where they were hiring artists sort of around in like pockets of the US to promote their new flavor. So they asked me to do a social media post inspired by the flavor Major Melon, I think is what it was called. And they didn't ask me to like paint a mural
Okay.
or paint anything. They just thought I had a decent following in the Lexington, Kentucky area. But I was like, I'm an artist, so I think the best way to, reach out to people is to paint something. So I painted a little mural in my studio at the time, based on Major Melon. It was like me surfing on like a pink wave of Mountain Dew. Um, but that was my first like influencer contract I ever got, where like I wasn't hired as an artist. I was truly just hired to like do a social media post. But I was like, I can only,
I
do
paint.
art to get engagement. So Mountain Dew was cool. And then MTV had this campaign where they were trying to get, younger people to vote early. and they hired artists all over the country to do a chalk installation.
Okay.
And I got the Nashville, Tennessee area. So I did this big chalk drawing in Nashville, and they let you choose kind of like a political topic to make your mural about. And I chose LGBT rights. So I did this big rainbow like birds and the bees mural. It was a lot of fun. It was cool to work with them.
Like ton of people, I guess, watching you do the whole thing.
Yeah, it was like in this big park in Nashville, and people, would stop by, and you could register to vote there, and yeah, that was a really cool experience too. It was like both of those were like for like smaller influencers, but it was such a good stepping stone to like bigger things. Yeah, those were a blast.
And then you said YouTube. What'd you do for
Oh,
them?
YouTube. They hired me to promote shorts a couple years ago. And that was an interesting one because they gave me like all of these options, like you can do this trend, this trend, this trend, or this trend, and you have to pick 5 of them over like 3 weeks. And they can only be like they're really specific, like this amount of time, you only use this music, and you have to make sure it says hashtag ad or hashtag sponsored. Um, and it didn't matter at all how well they did. They just wanted me to do it.
Huh. Isn't it weird?
Yeah,
Like
it is.
listen, I know I'm probably twice as old as you, Wiley, but it's like the algorithm and how it works. It's like I don't know. I mean, you were in my algorithm because of your art, so it does some of
Yeah.
those things that make sense, and then other things that make no sense at all.
Yeah, I can't nail it down. Like I can post the same thing on TikTok that I do shorts and reels, and like one will go viral, one will have 1,000 views. You never know. Yeah, so I can't nail it down either. I think I just get lucky
My son
sometimes.
has a YouTube channel. That was his 12-year-old birthday present, and he does little shorts that he animates on. I can't think of the app or whatever, but
Oh,
he
that's
like,
cool.
and he said, "What's your?" He said, "Dad, what's the most views you have on any of your things?" I'm like, "I don't know, a few hundred or a couple that." He goes, "My biggest one is 2,000," and I'm like,
That's pretty good.
"You're killing me, buddy." Um,
I used to do a lot of animation on the Nintendo DS Picto Chat.
so he records on his Oculus playing Gorilla Tag,
Oh
and
yeah, yeah, yeah.
then does like CapCut stuff and some different things. And I mean,
Oh,
I think it's awesome and I love it.
yeah,
And
totally.
and he's been wanting to have a channel for like 6 years. And I'm like, no,
Hmm.
you're not old enough. You can't do that. And he's like, but Dad, I could have 1 million followers by now.
Yeah, I feel like I don't think my parents would let me do social media until like at least late middle school. But I remember on like the Nintendo DS, you could post your little like flip book things that you drew on there. You could post them publicly to like the Nintendo DS. It was like its own little social media that I don't
Had his
think
own
my
little
parents.
server.
Yeah, its own server and everything. And yeah, I totally remember those. Like you could post anything. They were not monitored really. So I remember watching those and then posting my own when I was like 9 years old.
So so all this, you've started to kind of come into your own with a style and kind of what your era that you're in right now. And it seems like that is starting to now move into fashion for you.
Yeah.
Painting the suit for the Derby, was that like the first time you done that?
It wasn't the first time I'd painted a suit. Definitely the first time I'd painted such an expensive suit, though.
Saw that.
That was nerve-wracking. Yeah, I definitely I had this idea early on. I was like, I want to use some of this Derby paycheck to like wear something cool to the Derby. And I was like, I don't own anything designer, but like this would be a cool time to do that. And I'm like, what if I also if I help pay for this designer suit, if I paint it and then maybe make a video of it, that'll help, you know, make this payment of a designer suit a little easier. I was like, maybe this is also a cool idea. So that was a blast painting on a Tom Brown suit. I was proud of that one.
Did
But
that
yeah,
lead did that lead to doing the merchandise, or had you already started doing that?
I already had some merchandise, but none of my merch is like hand painted. It's all I found a company that does a full print. Um, and I've since gotten a lot of inquiries about painting suits and other things. I just did a UK jersey that I
Saw
painted.
that. I saw where
Yeah.
you were also getting a lot of hell from people because bobcats don't have long tails.
Yeah, how about that?
Listen, man,
which I did
don't
never
read
say.
the comments.
Yeah, I actually had no. I just thought wildcats have cattails.
It's all good. It was awesome. I thought it
Well,
was
thanks. I don't think I'd go back and change it if I could anyway. I like how the tail wraps up around the back too. So,
it,
but
it
this avoids copyrights.
there you go, perfect. But that seems like a real niche thing. Like, you
Hmm.
know, I could 100% see, Tom Ford doing you know, a rig or a fashion week thing where everything he has hand painted stuff on.
Listen to this. I just looked at the Tom Brown Instagram, and they were hand painting their suits just the other day. And I thought, did I encourage this? Did I?
Again, you've got to start. You need a lawyer.
I guess I really do actually maybe start trademarking a few things.
'Cause intellectual property is a weird thing. Uh, but you could
Yeah.
probably leverage that, to say, hey, look, I know where you got the idea.
Hmm.
Obviously, I did this, and it was viral, and it was highly publicized. Let's work together on this thing. Like, I know
Yeah,
you're
totally.
using it. Like, uh let's work together. I saw one where and again, it's the algorithm, but it was some company somewhere where the people who are creating the clothes have black ink all over them, and as
Hmm.
they're sewing on the sewing machine, and as they're grabbing the fabric and moving it around, it leaves all these
Oh,
fingerprints and paint all over the place. And then when you're done, it's this weird, awesome,
that's
black and white
interesting.
design.
Yeah, you can literally see the marks of where they did the work. That's
Yeah,
cool.
I,
I
I
haven't seen
I
that.
think I think you need to reach out to them about some
I
type of
think I should
collaboration.
too. Yeah. I'm like, I saw them hand painting those suits and I said, y'all could have just hired me. It would have,
A
they were just
cold
paying me like
email, just
a
a
couple
cold
solid
email.
bills.
Hey, my name's Wiley. I did this first. Bring
I
me to
did it
New
first. I
York.
know you saw it.
Bring me to New York and let's do this.
Yeah, you're right. I need to do that. I need to get a lawyer.
And
And
and it's one of those things too where it's like there's nothing wrong with I don't know. I don't know how often you do this, but with the music I did a lot. Like where you send stuff to, hey, I'm a nobody. You don't know who I am. Would you give this a review, or would you,
mhm.
and man, a lot of times if people believe that it's authentic, you know, they're going to go, you know what, I could help this person out, or I'll give it a listen, or I'll check
Yeah.
this out and look at it. And you don't know, you know, how many, at what point, maybe they don't work with you that time, but maybe your name pops up some other time, and
Oh
they,
yeah, yeah.
we should kind of go back to this and just kind of spreading that network. And I know you're doing that.
Oh yeah, you gotta plant the seed and then it'll grow. It'll come back. Yeah,
Very
definitely.
much without being too metaphysical, uh, the power of, um, uh,
Suggestion.
yeah, just like if I'm thinking it, I'm talking about it. The more I talk about it, the law of attraction.
Yeah,
Just like,
manifestation. Yeah.
yeah, like I can make this happen if I just let enough people know what I'm trying to accomplish.
Yeah. No, I totally know what you mean. And I feel like there's been some opportunities lately that have presented themselves that I had thought about, like a year or two ago that I've like almost spoken into existence, or just like, when there's something you want to do and kind of say it out loud and maybe talk to the right people, and it does kind of manifest. It's weird how that happens, but yeah.
So what are you trying to manifest now? So what is next? Like, is there a big thing on the horizon, or are you just moving slowly towards whatever's in front of you?
Um, there are some big things happening that I don't know if I haven't signed an NDA. I probably shouldn't say quite yet. Um, but there is
This
something
will
big happening.
probably this will probably air in like 3 weeks.
Yeah, I don't think I can say quite yet. But
You're working
there
on a mural right now, right?
I'm working on a mural right now downtown Lexington, over at the Hilton, and that's a big big mural down there, so that's a cool one. Um, And then right now I feel like I'm playing a lot of catch up. I've just got a lot of small inquiries that I'm trying to get through because I try not to do like, just big job after big job. These I find like these little tiny jobs sometimes are the ones that perform well on social media and they can definitely be worth it.
How
This
how
like
big of an impact does that make for you? Like are you is your
mhm.
stuff monetized? Like are you reaping any kind of rewards from that?
I make zero money directly from posting a video.
Okay.
Um, they're not monetized. I don't do like TikTok shop or I don't have brand deals. I'm not promoting products or anything. I think it's so important to keep entertaining on social media and so that people know who you are and will think of you for later jobs. Like this UK shirt I just painted, the jersey I painted and like hid on campus. Nobody asked me to do that. I just thought it would be, I just wanted to have some fun on social media. And I thought it would, go well with there was a game that Saturday and school was just starting. So I was like, I think this will perform well on social media. It's going to be a lot of fun. And I need to remind myself a lot to go do a fun thing real quick before I go on to the next job.
But now
Because
you have
that
1,000 people wanting a jersey.
yeah, yeah, and it does totally pay off eventually. But all my most viral videos are things I've done totally for fun and no money. They lead to other jobs, which is really important. But these like big jobs that pay me, that are the ones that pay the bills. They I think come from these big social media posts, but the social media posts are just I'm out there just messing around.
Well, and obviously you're not so huge that you won't answer emails and respond to people on Instagram because I just kind of cold, you know, messaged you and said,
I
"Hey, we
do my
should do this thing."
best. I do my best. There's definitely still some DMs and
I
emails
mean, I
that
have a blue check, so like it was safe.
it
It
does
was.
help that blue check, honestly. I do read those.
I mean, I checked that too.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. But like, I spend all day painting really, which is what I love. And then I forget there's a whole business side of things that is, man, I'm still learning how to, do this and
It's like just pricing something like
hmm
to where it's worth your time and it's worth leaving the house for. Early
yeah.
on, I probably lost money because I just had no clue. Like how much per square foot if it's
Yeah.
30 foot by 20 foot, like and
Yeah.
how much of it is um, are you paying for my experience versus how long it's going to take?
Yeah.
Because I could probably get your painting done in a couple hours, but it's because you've done 1,000 of them.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. I won't say what job, but recently I had a job reach out to me and or they asked me to do this like 2 years ago, like, will you design this mural? And I designed it and I was like, it'll cost $9,000 per square foot. That's like the total with like renting a lift and everything. And then like 2 years go by and they're like trying to kind of get this mural done and they reach back out and they're like, okay, we're, ready to do this at this time. And it's like 2 years later, I've like done the derby job, I've done all these other things. They've approved a design that I did 2 years ago that I don't really care for anymore. It's not special, it doesn't look fun. And I was like, okay, well, here's my updated quote. And I quoted it for quite a bit more.
Yeah.
And because really, I'm like,
You were
it's
just
not
trying to get work 2 years
I
ago.
was just trying to get work back then. And now I'm like, I don't really like need the job, which is like an amazing, wonderful place to be as an artist. But if you want me to do it, the resume has improved. I've the skills improved. Everything's gone. So it's this new price. And they asked me to go back to my original price, and I said no. And a couple weeks later, they came back and they said, okay, your updated price is approved. When can you start? And I was like,
It would have been
wow.
real easy for you to say, okay, I'll do it for 9,000 because you were afraid.
Yeah.
Like, because every time I
That
post something,
it took a lot in me to double back and be like, I'm sticking with this price because this 9,000, it's such a big job. It's not worth that. If you
in the
really,
corporate stuff, it's
yeah,
like, and then what's like, there's been a lot of times too where I'll say a price that I think I'm never going to work for them again.
yeah.
Even if they pay me for this, they're going to be like, nope, never again. And I'll say a price, and they'll go, okay, here's a credit card number, get started. and you're like,
Mhm.
I should have, I should have asked.
Yeah, no, they really can trap you sometimes, and yeah, yeah, saying no is so hard sometimes.
But that's where the power is. It's
Yeah.
like, I don't know, you can't. My wife was she's always been smarter than me. Um, like I just wanted art out there, and she'd be like, "But
Mhm.
do you want to do 10 of something for $100, or do you want to do one of them for $1,000?" And
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
well, that's smart, but I can sell 10 of them for $100 a lot faster than I can sell one for 1,000. She said, but
Mhm.
you could be working on so many other things instead of reproducing the same thing, 10 times. And in the beginning, I needed to do a lot of work. But now
Yeah, right.
you're kind of at a place where you're like you said, you can go, no, I don't really want to do that.
Which is a great place to be in. Yeah, I remember doing like pet portraits and drawing people's
And
houses
I'll
and
still do that.
yeah.
Like,
I bet
locally,
yours are way cooler though.
no, well, no, that it's like, I don't know if I should say this on but the truth is, it's like if someone in my local area, I'm very rural here, like I know what they can afford and what they can't afford. And I'm
Yeah,
very
yeah,
happy to
totally.
do something and like it's 100% worth my time to do it for X price because I know
Yes.
it's going to be really, really special for them. The
Yeah,
whole other thing
absolutely.
for a company, you know, it's
Yeah.
not their money, it's the company's money.
Yes. Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah. When it's a big corporation, that was the other thing. Is like when I didn't back down on my price. I was like, it's not like an individual paying for this. This is a
You're
big
not taking away
company.
from somebody's college fund.
Yeah, totally. I really don't feel too bad about, standing by the price, this updated price. So yeah, I totally agree. Yeah.
So you can't tell me what's next, which is a bummer. But that just means everybody's got to pay attention to Instagram and TikTok to see what's happening.
Honestly, I think what's really next is like I really want to go back to after I finish this job I'm doing downtown. It's a big mural on the Hilton Hotel. I think after that I just want to like have some fun with some projects and like think about like what I want to paint and like what's going to make a fun video for social media. So I'm gonna have fun for a little bit in a minute, and then this big thing
And
is
then
that hopefully.
that'll make you crazy busy because the fun stuff has paid off so much so far.
Yeah, yeah. Hopefully if it does pay off. But I'm
So
ready
so
to
if
have
people
fun.
want stuff, if people
Yeah,
want stuff though, like because you've got prints, you've got merchandise, and that is all at WylieCaudill.com, correct?
that's right. WylieCaudill.com.
Um, it's if they want commissions, like anything anybody's wanting, they can go to that website and they
Yeah,
can
my
get
email's on
you.
there. Shoot me an email. Email's gonna be better than a DM. I see most of my DMs, not all of them. But yeah, shoot me an email and I'll see what I can do.
All right, man. Well, hey, thank you so much. I know you rushed back from dinner, uh,
No,
but
you're good. Thank you for having me.
hey, look at there's not enough people in Kentucky. We're like, and I'm going to have a lot of musicians on this too, but it's like, I think artists, they just really don't get visual artists don't really get the pub that I feel like they deserve. And I don't know,
Well,
like you said,
thanks.
anybody can take a projector and put something on a wall. But it's a whole other thing to design something and have a style and have, your unique stamp on it. And like I said, I recognize your roses or your leaves or whatever. Anytime I see it, I'm going to immediately think, well, that was Wiley's, even
Well,
if somebody
thanks. That's been
jacked
the
it.
goal. Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you.
But
Thank you.
I'm so excited to see what happens next. Uh, I'm so proud of you as a Kentuckian and
Well, thanks. The
all the
feeling is
success you've had.
mutual.
And again, thanks for your work at Kentucky for Kentucky back in the day.
Oh, of course. I mostly just worked the cash register, but I had a good time.
It's all good. Well, buddy, thank you so much, and good luck to you. And I can't wait to see what's next.
Well, thank you very much. It's been so good chatting with you.
All right, thank you.